David Amakobe. I work for African Wood Incorporated. We are a consultancy that offers services in organization structure, organization behavior, and entrepreneurship. In this video, we're going to deal with the forms of United States business ownership. As we offer consultancy services, customers come to us when they are ready to start a business, but they do not know what kind of structure, what kind of ownership structure they need to use. So this video will offer a way and a ramp of entrance in which our customers and other people can be able to see what kind of structures are available to them if they're in the United States, and if they are in other jurisdictions, they may be able to find structures that are similar, or get a professional who can guide them, but they at least have an idea of what kind of structure they would like to have. So we will start, as usual, with explaining what an individual who wants to start a business can do. And then we'll go to groups of individuals, so that when somebody is ready to start a business, they can be able to separate the business from themselves. Because a business should be able to survive by itself, separate from the owner, even if the owner and the business seems to be the same person. So we will help out in that matter to make sure that people have an understanding of where they can start. And as you have seen, it is the forms of United States business ownership, because every jurisdiction has its own kind of ownership structure. The British system has a little different system, and the Commonwealth has a little different, but they'll do the same thing. So it is good to understand the jurisdiction that you are working with, we are working in. So we'll move ahead and start. There is no one best form of ownership. The best form of ownership depends on an entrepreneur's particular situation and jurisdiction. The characteristics of each form of ownership and how well they can match an entrepreneurial business and personal circumstances. So when you seek out a professional to set up a business for you, you must understand that although there are various forms of ownership, there's no one that is best for all. It will depend on your circumstances, your particular situation, and it will also depend on how well your business matches with your personal circumstances. So the professional will give you a list or a menu and explain to you what each does, and it's upon you to make a decision, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to make those calls. They are yours alone to make, with help from other or from your professionals. The factors that affect the choice of ownership are listed here. Tax consideration. You should understand that anytime you earn money, part of it will go to state and federal taxes, to city, state, and federal taxes. So you have to consider that when you're choosing your ownership, because the ownership structures are taxed differently, we'll say. liability exposure. Most of the time, the liability that comes from the business flows to the owner or owners differently depending on what structure one takes. You also will have to consider the startup and future capital requirement of the structure. You also have to consider the control of the business. How do you want to control it? Do you want to share control? Do you want to have it all? So those are considerations that a person setting up business has to take in mind when they are choosing or when they are being helped to choose. And managerial ability, business goals, management succession plans. You understand, we're not here forever, and what you plan to do or what you plan the business to be or to do when you're not there, and cost of formation. Each structure costs differently, so you got to be able to take that into consideration. So the major forms of ownership in the United States are sole proprietorship, general partnership, limited partnership, corporation, S corporation, limited liability company, and joint venture. You can see the percentage of businesses in the US a few years ago. 72%. So let's just say the majority of businesses in the US are sole proprietorship. Say 72%. And about 6% of them are C corporations. And 12% or thereabout are S corporations. So the corporation part will be like almost 17%. 6 plus that is about 18%. Limited liability company is about 6. Limited partnership about 2, and general partnership about 2. These are the percentage business owned in the United States. Keep that in mind as we look at the next slide. In the next slide, we see the percentage of sales. Look at the C corporations. The C corporations have sales of more than 60%, while the sole proprietorship are only about 5% or 4.5%. So you can see the majority of businesses are sole proprietorship, but the total sales that come from corporations are 60%. So you can see if you add the C corporations and S corporations, that makes you 80% of the sales. So they are large companies. Most of them are either C or S corporations, and you will see why as we progress in this video. The other general partnership, limited liability companies are small percentage of sales in the U.S. Net income. That's all businesses want to do. They want to spend money, they want to create these businesses, but at the end of the day, it's the net income that everybody is looking for. And the net income of C corporations is about over 50%, and S corporations about 14%. So the corporations have over 60% of the net income from business in the United States. So when you are choosing a company structure, an ownership structure, you should take that into mind. You should see where you want to go and choose wisely. So the advantages of a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is simple to create. It has least cost to begin. You're just in there to make a profit, Total decision-making authority is for the owner, no specific legal restrictions, and easy to discontinue. You start the business yourself. When you are tired, you just go, okay? And that is that for sole proprietorship. The thing about sole proprietorship is that the liability features of this sole proprietorship is that all liability, if you decide you are a plumber and you are working as a sole proprietor, all liability, if you go to somebody's house and do the plumbing and they burst and the whole house floods, the liability is yours. It just flows directly to you. Claims of sole proprietorship, creditors goes directly to you. That's that. You don't work for the business, you are the business. Partnership. A partnership is an association of two or more people who co-own the business for a purpose of making profit. You need a partnership agreement. And you need to have trust and respect among or between yourselves. If there's no trust and there's no respect, you can't be partners. And even if there is trust and respect, you must have an agreement. You have to agree in reduced in writing so that you know everybody's responsibilities and expectations. Handshake is okay, but sometimes when the rubber meets the road, handshake is not enough. Sometimes human beings hear something different from what is said or intended. Most people are selective hearers. They pick and choose what to hear, particularly when there is supposed to be trust and respect, and somebody's telling you something that is contrary to what you think or believe. You will tend to downplay it and just hear what you think he should have said or she should have said. So reducing it in writing so that everybody can say it and understand it will increase the trust and respect. Not reducing it into writing will bring mistrust and disrespect later on. So, partnership, you must have a partnership agreement, and you must have trust and respect, and reduce everything in writing so that everybody understands. Partnerships are easy to establish. Partners should bring in complementary skills. The division of profits is easy. Everybody brings in a large pool of capital, and you can attract limited partners. We'll talk about limited partners in a few minutes. So, we have general partners and limited partners. General partners take active role in managing the business. They have unlimited liability because they are running the business, okay, for the depths of the partnership. And every partnership must have at least one general partner, the person who is running the business, who has unlimited liability for all the debts. Now, there is the part of limited partners. They cannot participate in the management, the day-to-day management of the company, and have limited liability. Their liability is limited to how much money or how much resources they put in. So they are limited in the sense they don't run the business, and their liability is limited to what they put in. You cannot go and ask any more money from the limited partners than they put in. But the general partner is liable for all the debts of the partnership. So when you are setting up a partnership, in that agreement, you must state whether both of you, all of you, are general partners, you'll be running the business, or some of you are limited partners, putting in resources and just resources and going away. So you have to make sure that that is specified. There are two types of limited partners too. They are silent partners, not active in business, but also are generally known to be partners. So they are silent partners. They are known to be in the partnership, but they don't run it. Okay? They are dormant partners. They are neither active and neither generally known to be partners. The people who just give you money and say, okay, run it, just put my name in the file, but I don't want anybody knowing I'm here. So, types of partners. You can see how the partnership is getting a little more complex. You start a partnership, you are 2 or 3 or 4 people. Then you have to decide whether you are all general partners or some of them are limited partners. And if they are limited partners, whether they are going to be silent partners or they are going to be dormant partners. You have to reduce that into written, because you don't need a dormant partner coming to tell the general partners how to run the business, because their liability is not there and nobody knows they own the business. You don't want silent partners all of a sudden behaving like general partners. General partners are the people who run the business. They are the ones who have unlimited liability. So the trust and respect that put you together should be able to enable you to decide, to make a definition of who is a general partner, who is a limited partner, and if they are limited partners, who is the silent partner and who is a dormant partner. And that is important in the management of the partnership. Advantages of the partnership. They are easy to establish. You have a partnership agreement as long as you have specified who is who and what you're going to do and how much money everybody is putting in. If you decide how much money everybody is putting in and who is going to be the general partner and what you're going to be doing, most of the time, that's it. And if each partner is bringing in complementary skills, and you decide how you're going to divide your profits, and everybody brings in capital, and you leave it open, the option to attract limited partners. There's minimal government control in that, because you are doing generally, okay? It's an agreement, so. And it's flexible. The taxation flows through it. It's not taxed as an entity, but as the partners are. Disadvantages of partnership. Unlimited liability for at least one partner. We said at least one partner must be a general partner, and the general partner has unlimited liability. That comes with it. It also has the disadvantage of accumulating capital. This is the third one is interesting. It's difficult to dispose of partnership without dissolving the whole, because bringing in a new partner to buy off another one is very difficult, because you have to do a lot of valuations, and the chemistry between the partners changes, so the trust and respect, there may be a trust and respect deficit. So it's difficult. It may just require to dissolve it all and start a new partnership. The potential for personality and authority conflicts. You know what? If they are 5 general partners, everybody has got his opinion, unless unless in the agreement you decide that you're going to have a managing partner who can be removed with by other partners depending on circumstances. This is a place where there's a potential for personal and authority conflict. And then the law of agency. Once you are in a partnership, every partner is assumed to be doing the work for the other partners. Think about that. And if all of you are general partners, the law of agency is applicable to all of you. So you need to know what each other is doing. And that, of course, brings in the personality and authority conflict. If everybody is going to do their thing and bind everybody, may be a good thing, but sometimes not a good thing. And as you can see, the liability features of a partnership. The claims of partner creditors go directly to partner assets and to the general partner assets. So if suppose you decide to create a partnership and you have $1 million in the bank, but you decide to put in the partnership only 200,000, and you are a general partner, whatever debts the other partners incur, you are responsible for them. So before you go into a partnership with somebody, before you bind yourself into a partnership with somebody, you better know them. You better know whether there are people you are able and willing to allow to spend your money, because they will spend it through the law of agency. So partnerships, general partnerships are this way. The liability flows, and considering that everybody is doing is pledging credit for everybody, if there is a trust deficit, that can be a problem. Limited partnership. A partnership composed of at least one general partner and one or more limited partners. A general partner is the partnership is treated exactly as a general partnership. A limited partner has limited liability and is treated as an investor. Remember that. Whatever money they put in, that's all they are liable for. Limited partners. Anything after that, it is on the general partner. So that's the limited partnership. Limited liability partnership. All partners in the business are limited. Okay? Gives the advantage of limited liability for the debts of the partnership. Does not pay taxes. Income is passed through to the limited partners who pay taxes on their share of the company's income. Remember that. Limited liability partnerships. The partners are all limited. There is no general partner here. So in that case, there is no one to who the liabilities of the partnership pass. The liability of the partnership stay there. Now here we go. We are reached the level of a corporation. A corporation is a separate legal entity from its owners. It's a different person. There are 3 types of corporations in the United States. The domestic corporation, which is a corporation doing business in the city in which it was incorporated. Say a corporation is a Delaware corporation and is doing business in Delaware, that's a domestic corporation. A foreign corporation is a corporation doing business in a state that, other than the state in which it was incorporated. Suppose you incorporate in Delaware, but you do business in Maryland. That's a foreign corporation. An allied corporation is one formed in another country, but doing business in the United States. So think about that. When you think about a foreign corporation in the United States, they're thinking about states. They're thinking about a corporation incorporated in Maryland and doing business in Florida, or in California doing business in New York. A domestic corporation is one which is incorporated in Delaware and doing business in Delaware. So remember that if your company was incorporated in Delaware and started doing business in Delaware, then it expanded to Maryland, it can be both a domestic corporation and a foreign corporation, because it is domestic in Maryland, in Delaware, but foreign in Maryland. And this is different from an allied corporation, which is a corporation that was incorporated, say, in Germany or in Kenya, and is doing business in the United States. So something to note about that. Besides the jurisdiction of domicile, corporations are also divided into publicly held corporations, a corporation that has large number of shareholders and whose stock usually is traded on one of the large stock exchanges, and a closely held corporation in which shares are controlled by a relatively small number of people, often family members, relatives, or friends. So, a corporation is closely held when it is controlled by a relatively small number of people. So most people starting businesses, if they are choosing a corporation, will start with a closely held corporation. The liability features of a corporation. The claims of corporation creditors only go to the corporation's assets. There's a barrier from the corporation assets to the shareholders' assets. Those personal assets are done. Whatever the assets that are the corporations, the money and the capital that was invested in the corporation by the shareholders, is all that they are liable for. They are not liable for anything extra. That's a good thing. It will give you a good night's sleep, knowing that the money you gave is the only one that is at risk. But if all the money you own and all the assets you have, including the house you live in, is in play, and your general partners are pledging your credit everywhere they're going, unless you have a lot of faith and trust in them, you may want to think about shielding yourself. The advantages of a corporation are said: limited liability of stockholders, ability to attract capital. Now you can sell shares to people who have money, and their liability is limited to what money they put in. And it has perpetual existence, ability to continue indefinitely. And it is transferable. You just sign away the shares, and you walk away. So it's something, since the corporation is different from you as a shareholder, even if you started as one person, or you started as a family, or as family and friends, when you have grown it to a certain level, or you think you have reached a time when you want to leave the business, you can just find a buyer, like you you find for any other asset like a car and sell it and you out. So that's a good thing. And the liability is limited to only the funds or resources you put in. You can attract other people to come and invest in it, and it can continue perpetually. You can see the tax rates. This I would advise that you don't take this as the actual taxes now, this time, or in future. You need to check with your tax expert to see how much the tax liabilities are. But this is as of about 2019 or something. So, but I put it in here just to be able to show you the different rates of taxation. All small businesses are always, at that time, were being taxed at 19.8%. The C corporations were being taxed at 17. S corporations at 26. Partnerships at 23. And sole proprietorship at 13. You can see also, like we said, tax liability is one of the things that you use to will determine what kind of corporation, what kind of business ownership you want. So, like as you can see in this one, the small businesses are taxed at 9, but the corporations are being taxed as general at 17. That's low. The S corporations, the C corporations had like a 10% advantage over the S corporations. Everything that has advantages has disadvantages. Before you run and say you want a corporation, you must know it costs time, this high time and money to incorporate it. It's got double taxation because when the corporation earns money, it has to pay tax on it. And then when it pays the shareholders, they have to pay tax on it. I repeat that. The corporation is a different person from its shareholders. And therefore, any business it does and any money it makes, it must pay tax on it. And then when it makes a profit and decides to pay shareholders dividends, the shareholders must pay tax on the dividends as income. So that's why we're saying here double taxation. There has a potential for diminished managerial incentives. Okay, there are now the control is diffused, so management is very separated from the ownership, the shareholders. So they need incentives to be able to work. So there's potential for diminished managerial incentives to do the work. Legal requirements and regulatory red tape. Well, you are basically creating a new person into existence. So you should expect there will be laws that govern that. And you need help to be able to navigate around them. And of course, there is the potential of loss of control by founders. Yes, you remember Steve Jobs. He owned his company, and the board didn't like it. They fired him. He stayed in the wilderness for 10 years, came back. The rest is history. But the potential to lose control of your business by the founders is real. So there's no guarantee that you founded a company and you'll be the boss continuously. S corporations. There's no difference between an S corporation and a C corporation from a legal perspective. An S corporation is just taxed like a partnership, passing all its profits or losses through to individual shareholders. To elect as an S status, all shareholders must consent, and the corporation must file with the IRS within the first 75 days of its tax year. So you must, an S corporation is just a corporation, but then you will elect to be taxed like a partnership. So it's a flow through. That's all the difference. Everything else is okay, only the taxation is different. And most of the time, this happens for small companies, not large companies. But advantages of S corporation: it retains the advantages of regular compensation, continued existence, a perpetual existence, transferability of ownership, unlimited personal liability of the owners. It does that. That's the good thing about that. And of course, you can always change the S status by not electing before before 75 days elapse in your financial year. So these corporations has the barrier, as usual. The liabilities, the claims of S corporation creditors do not go to the assets of the shareholder, the personal assets of the shareholder. Disadvantages: entrepreneurs considering both S and C status should review the impact of the decision on their companies. That is important. The impact, basically the tax impact and the reporting. You should review it, understand it before you choose. Because if you choose to pay all the income to the partners and be taxed as an S corporation, you must report that. You must have the paperwork to support it. You must have the consents on file. All shareholders must consent. I mean, if you have 1,000 shareholders, most likely you might not want to, because you may not get all the 1,000 shareholders. But if you have 10, you can have a meeting and say, hey, let's change Series BS so that everybody pays their taxes if we have, or something like that. S corporation status is usually beneficial to startup companies anticipating net losses, because founders can use the losses to offset income and lower their tax bill. Get it? When you are a startup and you are expecting losses, which you can offset, you can use to offset your income, your personal income, is a good thing. Other than that, no. Okay, limited liability companies. They resemble S corporations, but it's not subject to the same restrictions. 2 documents are required: articles of organization and an operating agreement. Limited liability companies like C and S corporations, they have a barrier on the claims of the creditors. Only the money that they are paid in the company is at risk. Okay? And the members' personal assets are free. The professional corporation. You see that? You see that if you have visited a doctor, hired a lawyer, hired an engineer, you always see their companies are PC, PA, and CS. Service Corporation, Professional Association, Professional Corporation. And these professional corporations are only designed for professions: lawyers, doctors, dentists, accountants, and other professions. They are created in the same way a corporation is created, but they are identified as PC, PA, and CS. Then we come to the joint venture. It's much like a partnership, but it's formed for a specific purpose and has a beginning and an end. Okay. You come together, you have a project you need to do. Or suppose you are making a bid for a government tender to build a road, and you think your strengths will complement each other, so you come together to bid for that purpose for that project, when you get it, the duration of that project is the duration of your joint venture. That's what joint venture for. Bring together strengths to achieve a certain purpose in time. We're reaching the conclusion that the right choice of the form of ownership is unique to every entrepreneur and their business. Each form has advantages and disadvantages. The entrepreneur must be thoughtful and strategic about this important decision. Before you call an agent or a lawyer to create your company, you need to have thought through this. Having an informed customer is always good. And informed customers are always good customers. They know they need to stay in their lane, but they know somebody else needs to do something to help them. But if a client is not informed of what choices they have and what they should do, it's normally very difficult to help them. So for all those entrepreneurs out there who are considering getting into business and deciding which kind of ownership might be beneficial, I recommend watching this video and then thinking about it, discussing it with the other professional, with the other your partner or partners or potential investors, and thinking where you want to go. If you are coming together for a limited time for a specific project, then you obviously want a joint venture. If you are just coming together to do something, or do business, but you are not worried about succession, then that helps you. You need to know. So all those questions you need to ask yourself, and before you decide what kind of ownership structure you want, then go seek help for its formation. Or even if the professional may talk you out of it, but at least you understand the reasons why you could have it or you could not have it. So that was a presentation on different types of business ownership in the United States, and those entrepreneurs who are in the business or are starting business and would like to have an ownership structure that is appropriate for them, they need to think very strategically and see why they actually want this particular structure. A structure of a business is like a foundation. And when you decide what structure, you have to reduce it in written so that everybody understands their place in it. And there is no miscommunication. There is no, I thought you meant this. It must be clear. It must be clear for every partner, every investor, everybody involved in the business. Ownership of a business is key because people go into business to own a piece of something and make profit. And if you don't make that decision when you start, you are planning to fail. And you are planning to spend your social capital badly, you are planning to spend your trust, you are planning to spend your respect badly. You must set the foundation down by establishing the structure, the foundational issues before you go on to operations. As a consultant in organization structure and organization behavior. I've come across situations where friends or family members come together and they are more ready to do the business than worry about the structure of the business. Operations are easy, but if you are not clear on the structure, that is a problem. And my recommendation is looking through all these structures that are available for ownership of business. Make a call. That should be your first business decision. If you are one person, if you are two people, if you are four people, make a decision and make it clear for everybody, so that as you go into operations, everybody understands their place and everybody else's place to avoid personal conflicts. Thank you very much for bearing with me. This has been a little long and windy, but it's important for entrepreneurs to know. My name is Dr. David Frederick Makobe. I work with African Wood Incorporated. We are consultants in organization structure and organizational behavior and entrepreneurship, of course. And if you learned something from this video, please like it, share it, and comment in the comment sections what else you would like us to deal with and help in your entrepreneurial journey, so that we build businesses that are strong, are built on a good foundation. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.